because I'm 24, I might be a little bit young for actual Botox. However, I want to try this Botox alternative because even though I don't really have wrinkles, I do have a lot of attitude, and I put up this eyebrow a lot, and it's starting to, do you guys see that? Like, have creases. So I'm going to try to prevent that from getting worse. And you're supposed to wear these overnight. I'm curious how this is going to look in the morning. Also, I saw this review on Amazon stating that they do not smell like a dead animal, so I figured that this must be a very high-quality skin product. Thank you, Frownies. Okay, so back to the program. It is supposed to look like 3 triangles across my forehead. So let's take you guys in, and I'm going to break this one up and do a little geometry here. I then spray the back and put it on my forehead like so. Cool. Okay, I'm going to put this more on the side over here too, just to really get that area to retrain my muscles to not have that much attitude. Okay, and we'll just see if it looks like I got Botox in the morning. So I actually don't think that Coraline ever left the other world. I'm going to be sharing some of my favorite Coraline theories with you guys today. So the reason that I think she never went back to the other world is because she can't be seen going back through the tunnel to the real world whenever she first went there. She is only seen going to bed as it fades away and it turns back into the real world. And whenever Coraline finally returns to the real world, she sees her parents trapped in a snow globe. How could this magic have even happened in the real world if it's only there in the other mother's world? After this, the real world seasons seem to change very rapidly, and her neighbors, Miss Spink and Miss Forcible, just happen to have everything that's useful for her in this world. When in the beginning of the movie, she doesn't even interact with them at all. It also is so suspicious to me that the neighbors don't think to call the police whenever her parents are missing, unless they were being controlled by the other mother. The cat also appears to be really doubtful too, like he knows that she's not actually back. And at the very end of the movie, the cat actually disappears behind the pink palace sign, showing they're still there. Okay, so back to another Coraline theory. I am pretty sure that the well was another portal to the other world. Whenever Coraline meets Wybie for the first time, he tells her that if she falls to the bottom of the well, she can look up and see a sky full of stars even in the daytime. Something very representative of the other world is that it is night all the time. And whenever Coraline first sees this well, it has a ring of mushrooms around it, which is obviously representative of a fairy ring, which is definitely not a good thing if you stand in the middle of it. You're supposed to do certain rituals if you do accidentally stand in the middle of a fairy ring, because fairy rings are very representative of curses and can lead to a negative outcome. And if this theory is true, that means that at the very end of the movie, whenever Coraline drops the key back down the well, the key would have ended up back with the other mother. Which I also feel like this helps the theory that she never left either, because the other mother is giving her a false sense of succeeding, when in reality, Coraline just trapped herself, which is why the ending just seems way too good to be true. So the entire theme of Coraline has to do with power dynamics, and this power relation between bugs and humans and nature. Of course, as we know, spoiler alert, the other mother is a spider. In European folklore, spiders represent fear, and Freud actually believed that this represented mothers who wanted to devour their children out of possessiveness or guilt. Does this sound familiar at all? And it is kind of alluded that the other mother is contacted through Coraline dreaming. Even Coraline's hair clip is representative of the devil's darning needles, which is what dragonflies represent in European folklore. And it was said that they would poke out eyes or sew the mouth shut of naughty children. And doesn't this sound familiar whenever Wybie had to have his mouth sewed? Whenever he was disobeying the other mother? And poking eyes just like the button eyes. But there's so many more questions that I have, like who exactly is the other mother? How did she get there? Is she the real enemy of the story, or was Coraline set up? I made a whole YouTube video talking way more in depth on Coraline conspiracies. Imagine opening your door only to see children standing there with lifeless eyes. So I'm truly terrified of black-eyed children. Black-eyed children are paranormal creatures that are said to resemble children 6 through 16. They have pale skin and black eyes. And when a reported encounter happens, you have to actually invite them in order to be in any danger. So how did this legend even get started? Well, tabloids have been covering the tales of these sightings since the 1980s. The biggest source who is indicated to have started this on the mainstream happened in 1996, in which a Texan reporter by the name of Brian Bethel had 2 alleged encounters with black-eyed children. So Brian was sitting outside of a theater in his car in Abilene, Texas, when he got a knock on his glass window. There was 2 boys there who seemed to be around the ages of 9 and 12, and they were both wearing hooded sweatshirts. He opened the window a crack, and they asked if they could have a ride to their mothers. He described one of the boys as being olive-toned with curly hair, and the other one red-headed with freckles and very pale. He stated that as they were talking, he felt a sense of dread come over him, and he told them that he wouldn't make it back in time for his movie. However, the second he said this, they pushed even harder. They started saying things like, "We're just kids, we don't have a weapon or anything," and that's when he noticed that their eyes were completely black. He told the boys no, and that's whenever they started to knock on his door harder, saying, "We can't come in unless you tell us to." He then drove away and noticed from the rearview mirror that the boys were completely gone. So this was the foundation to the black-eyed children story. But this would not even be close to the last. Go to part 2. So how does one of the largest police investigations in Britain history relate to black-eyed children? So the next really significant sighting of black-eyed children happened in Cannock Chase, England. A woman and her mom were out for a walk whenever they heard a scream and saw a child walking in the distance. They could hear the child sobbing, and when they approached her to ask her if she was okay, she had her hands covering her eyes, and whenever she removed her hands, she revealed black eyes underneath. She then grabbed her daughter and jumped back, and by the time they did that, the girl had just disappeared. And years before, the police were actually led on a chase near that area for a girl with black eyes who was running through the woods by herself after someone reported her being there. And the police search showed up nothing. But Cannock Chase had made headlines in the 1960s for a highly reported case. 3 local schoolgirls between the ages of 5 and 7 had been abducted and murdered. And some say that the black-eyed child that lives over there is the ghost of one of those girls. But this still doesn't explain the thousands of sightings that have popped up around the world. So who or what are the black-eyed children? Are they ghosts, demons, vampires? So I'm going to be going into all the theories surrounding black-eyed children on my YouTube, as well as telling you guys more stories about sightings of black-eyed children. And forewarning, they're scary. I'm also going to be peeling this off my face in the YouTube video. I honestly cannot wait to get this off, so go over there and watch.